Mine a long time ago that I'm going to do this come hell or high water.
Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
If you will turn in your Bible just briefly to the 9th chapter of the book of St. Luke chapter 9, St. Luke chapter 9. And I want you to notice here the word of the Lord. Jesus had just asked Peter, who do you say that I am? And Peter answered and said, the Christ of God. And then he strictly warned them and commanded them to tell this to no one. St. Luke chapter 9, pick up with me at verse 22. St. Luke chapter 9, verse 22. He commanded them to tell no one, saying, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised the third day. And then he said to them all, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. And whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and is himself destroyed or lost? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, of him the Son of Man will be ashamed when he comes in his own glory and his Father's and of the holy angels. I want to talk to you for just a few moments about the cost of discipleship. The cost of discipleship. You'll notice in verse 22 that the Son of Man must suffer many things. Say suffer. Now, you don't suffer for the same reasons that Jesus suffered. Jesus suffered for our sins. He's already died for our sins. He suffered for that. But he said, in the same way that he suffered, arm yourselves with the same mind, because you're going to have to suffer some things. The Bible teaches that Jesus was perfected or matured through the things that he suffered. And God will let you go through some things, and you don't understand why you've got to go through what you've got to go through. But God said, I'm going to grow you up, baby girl, baby boy. I'm going to grow you up. You'll have to go through some things because it brings maturity to you. So you must suffer through some things. I want you to get some key words. I use alliterations a good deal because I see them in Scripture. And the first here is that the Son of Man must suffer many things. You must suffer many things. Your suffering will teach you great lessons. It'll mature you. It'll begin to bring perfection to your spirit. And then he says, you must be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes. Isn't it something that as you mature, that it seems like you become isolated? So you go from suffering into solitude. Suffering, solitude. Isn't it something that looked like when everything is going well, everybody wants to be around you, but then when your money gets funny, folk won't return your call. They look at your name coming up on the thing and they won't even call you back. You go into solitude. Suffering oftentimes leads into solitude. You become rejected by the folks, the elders, the chief priests, the scribes, the folks that ought to have your backs, folks that you think that ought to love you and be able to respond to you. But after you've gone through the suffering, connected with that suffering, that exacerbates the suffering, that adds insult to injury, suffering then leads you into solitude. And then notice he said, and he'll be killed. That's sacrifice. You go from suffering into solitude, into sacrifice. Along with suffering and solitude comes sacrifice. You don't really fully understand sacrifice until you have children. Until another person is depending on you, and now you've got to sacrifice how you feel and what you are for another individual. And so you go from suffering to solitude to sacrifice, and the final S here, and notice he says, and he'd be raised the third day. That's what I call sublimate. It's sublimation. It's when you rise from one lower form into a higher form. Water sublimates when it transforms from a liquid into a gas, a vapor. And you see, when God brings you into sublimation, this is where you're going. You have to understand that your suffering has an end to it. Your suffering, trouble does not last always. Weeping may endure for a night, but... So suffering, it has a death date to it, already built into it. Your suffering that leads you into solitude, that leads you into sacrifice. It will finally bring you into a place of sublimation where it leaves you at a higher level than where you were. And see, when you've sublimated, now you've gone through things, and people used to talk about you, and it used to make you cry. But when you sublimated, now their words bounce off of you like water off of a duck's back. It doesn't hurt you anymore. You're no longer bothered by the things that they are saying to you. Now, you have sublimated. You're not the same. You're not in the same form. You've been transformed, but you're at a higher level of existence now. When you were water, they could always stick their finger in you and move you. They knew how to push your buttons and ruffle your feathers. But when you sublimate, sublimate. Now you're sting. They can't touch this. They can't seem to get their hands on you because I've been through hell and high water, and you think now because you didn't speak to me that you're going to ruin my day? Baby, you got to come with something heavier than that. I've had too much pain for you to think that you're going to ruin my day just because you didn't smile back at me. No, I've come to another level. You're going to call me and try to tell me about something that used to send me into a tizzy at one point. But now you don't bother me. You can't touch this because I've sublimated. I'm at a higher level now. You don't even get to that until you've gone through the death of sacrifice, until you've been in solitude, until you've gone through suffering. Isn't it something how you suffer and you go through the isolation of solitude, and then you have to come to sacrifice where you die to yourself? But I'm telling you, when God raises you, you are not the same little girl, the same little boy that went through that mess. You've been through some things, and the thing that you have suffered have matured you, have perfected you, have grown you up, have given you insight, have given you perspective, have given you a testimony, have given you the words to a song. I don't want anybody to sing to me that hadn't gone through something. I want you to be crushed so you can get the oil out. The anointing's got to get out in your life. I don't trust anybody to write a poem whose heart has never been broken. I don't want you to write a story and tell me about a testimony if you haven't had a test. But when you come out of that thing, you are sublimated to a brand new level. Buckle your seatbelts, we got to move real quickly. Look at verse 23. We're really talking about the cost of discipleship. The cost of discipleship. What does it cost you? It'll cost you everything you've got. What does it pay you? It pays you everything he's got. So I want you to know that it costs everything, but it pays everything. There's a balance of it. And may I tell you this? When it pays everything that he's got, the reward is far greater than the stuff that you've got. Far greater. Notice what he said. Then he said to me, if anyone desires to come after me, said desire. Here's a pattern of the cost of discipleship is that you've got a desire. He's not going to make anybody follow him. He gets out in front. The Holy Spirit is a gentleman. He's not going to make you do anything. He'll just get out front, and he said, where he leads me, I will follow. And we have to follow because we desire to be with him. In Psalm 42, as the deer pants after the water brook, so my soul hungers after you, thirsts after you, dear God. We follow him because we've got desire. Well, you see, one way that you understand the desire is one half of knowing what you desire is knowing what you must give up in order to get it. You got to know what you got to give up in order to get it. See, I think that the real measure of desire is in a person's willingness to give up everything that they've got in order to get what they want. See, the proof of desire is in pursuit. It's in pursuit. So you got to desire. You got to desire certain things. So he said, if any man will come after me, desires to come after me. Yet nobody's going to force him. You're not going to come after. You're not going to serve God because your mama wanted you to serve God. Because your daddy wanted you to serve. Because grandma was praying for you. You're going to serve God because you come to a place where you said, I've got to have you. I want you for myself now. You know, Lord, I'm not doing this for anybody else. Because if you come because somebody else wanted you to come there, you won't stay. And so he said, I want you to follow me willingly. I want you to follow me willingly. If anyone desires to come, there's got to be a desire. God cannot bless you beyond your level of desire. He cannot bless you beyond your level of desire. And so you must always understand that you've got to decide, what is it that I must give up in order to get what I want? Because you see, a student has to be willing to give up his idle time in order to study to get the degree that he wants. A man has to be willing to give up his selfishness and his childishness, which destroys most relationships. It's the childishness and the selfishness of a man. And he has to be willing to give up his selfishness and his childishness so that he can get the desired marriage that he wants. It's a farmer. A farmer has to give up the seed to get the harvest that he wants. It's all about getting what you want. And if you really want to understand how is it that I determine what desires are in my heart right now, how do I determine what desires are in me? I tell people to look back. You know, sometimes folks don't even know what they really want. See, the Bible says in Mark 11:24, what things soever, Jesus speaking, what things soever you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive it, and then you'll have it. And most folks don't even know what to say, well, Lord, whatever you want for me. He said, whatever you desire, when you pray, believe that you receive it, and then you shall have it. And so we've got to understand something about our desires. Many times if you will look back and see what it is that you do consistently well. Look back in your life and see what is it that you do consistently well. You'll begin to locate your desires. See, Sister Lucinda could look back and see that when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was singing. And I could do pretty well for a 4 or 5 year old. You see, you can look back and see whatever you could do consistently well, and that begins to locate your desires. Then look ahead and see what is it that you cannot see yourself living without. What is it that you cannot see yourself living without? I found people, my wife would tell me, life would just be so bland and dull, like it would be in black and white if there were not music in the world. There's some folks, when you find that you just can't live without it. Some people tell me they can't live without reading books. I think I'd make it all right. But you discover that whatever it is that you don't feel like you can live without, that's a part of your real desire, your passion, your real passion. If you don't feel like you can live without something. I told you Billy Graham, recently lost his wonderful wife, Ruth, that had served him for so many years, and they'd been soulmates. He said, this is my soulmate and my best friend. And he said, and I can't imagine life one day without her by my side. It's something to not be able to see in the future. That tells you where your desires are. So you have to look back and see what you've done consistently well. Look ahead to see what it is that you cannot live without. Then look within to see whatever you're passionate about. Look within to see what you're passionate about. 70% of people dread Mondays and dream of Fridays and slug through the week. It is a statistical fact that the majority of people who die on Monday morning. They die on Monday morning, so they don't have to go to work. Oh, they're not going. If they die on Friday, they were really sick. Now, I don't think that that's just a coincidence that the majority of people who die on Monday morning. They die Monday morning, the majority of people. I check back and I look and see, my daddy died on a Monday morning. Because he was his own boss now, so if he didn't want to go to work, he didn't have to go to work. And let me tell you, my daddy loved what he did. And he did it until he was finished. And I was at total peace. You know why? Because I heard my daddy say to me. He said, I've been every place that I wanted to go. And I've done everything that I want to do. I knew that he had fought a good fight. He'd finished his course. And my daddy died while he was out on a walk with my mother, could outwalk her. I knew he was not the type to die, dribble up in a bed. So he decided to check out on a walk. It reminded me of Enoch, who walked with God and was not. But he did his desire. You look back to see what it is that you've done consistently well. You look ahead to see what is it that you can't live without. You look within to see whatever it is that you are passionate about. And then you have to be able to look around to see what other possibilities. Look around to check possibilities. Because what is modeled for us is often what we desire. See, we become what we behold. So here's what you have to do. You have to change your environment, because when you're exposed to things, it'll begin to change what you desire. There's certain things that you'll never desire until you see it. You got to get exposed to it. It was something for Lucinda's cousin to have on some Tremaine Hawkins music and to listen, and something on the inside of her to say, one day, I want to be able to do that where I can minister to folks. Your life will change through exposure. And if all that you've been exposed to is pimps and drug dealers in your neighborhood, and I say that they are businessmen, they're just corrupt businessmen. But you need to get around some honest businessmen that don't have to hide their money, and that can spend it, that can report all of it and pay the taxes on it and do it the legitimate way. So you ought to find a place downtown where business folks get up early in the morning and they go and talk about business deals. Go and just put your ear, just get by you a cup of coffee. You can't afford anything else, and just listen to that conversation, how they wheel and deal. Get out on the golf course and be a caddy where business deals are being made. Get into the atmosphere, because your desires will begin to change. You have to sometimes change where you are. Get around somebody that's doing something. That's why God said, before he could even speak to Jeremiah the prophet in the 18th chapter of Jeremiah, he said, get thee down to the potter's house, and there I shall cause you to hear my words. The reason he told him to get to the potter's house is because everything that was happening in the potter's house was productive, because things were being made. And God says, I want you to get around a place where things are being made, where productivity is going on, because there I'll cause you to hear my word. There are certain things that you will never know until you get in the right environment. Why do you think that God would bless man and then give him a command and say, multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and all of these things if he didn't put man in an atmosphere? That's why God took man and planted him in a garden where every time man looked around there, he saw stuff growing. He saw ivy growing. He saw kudzu growing. He saw peach trees and orange trees and tomato vines and watermelon. He saw every place he looked, there was growth. There was multiplication. Every place that he looked, there was productivity around him. God placed him in an atmosphere where everything was growing. To the north, he looked and there was growth. To the south, there was growth. To the east, there was growth. To the west, there was growth. There were streams of things that were watering it. 4 different streams that came into Eden that were watering him, beginning to tell him, you shouldn't just have 1 stream of income. Maybe you need 3 additional streams. He put him in an atmosphere where you need to be able to learn, I can do more than what I'm doing right now. And God has to put you in an atmosphere with folks that's operating at a bigger level than where you are. I always keep connected to folks in my life that are operating at a bigger level where I am. Because if I'm the smartest person in my group is too small. And so I always keep somebody connected that I can pick up the telephone, that I can call and have influence with, and I can sit down and have lunch with them because they stretch me, and I do it just for atmosphere, to be in the right place so my desires stay intact. You've got to look and see what it is that you desire. And the last place that I tell you to look for your desires is to look above. You look to God, because the Bible says in Psalm 37:4 that when you delight yourself also in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. That doesn't mean that God will just give you everything that you want, but what it does mean is that when you begin to worship God, God will begin to put right desires. He'll put the desire, and instead of just looking for somebody good looking, he'll put a desire for you to look for somebody that's got good character. Are you listening? Because a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. So stop looking for somebody's bling bling. Stop trying to look and see what the man drives and find out what drives the man. Jesus simply said, if anyone desires to come after me, you've got to desire to come after him. Nobody can follow Jesus without desiring it. And then he said, let him deny himself. You've got to desire, and then you've got to deny. Deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself, deny yourself. That is simply yielding to the will of God. It means that following Christ, it cannot just be a duty to you. It's got to be a delight to you, where you just submit to him. And you're not living. When you deny yourself, it means that you refuse to live by the dictates of your feelings and your flesh, and you make the conscious effort that I am going to live by the word and by the Spirit of the living God. It means that I'm going to impose a fast on myself. It means that I'm going to choose to do what I need to do and not what I want to do. I call it the now principle, needs over wants. Because we buy what we want and we beg, borrow, and steal for what we need. And so when you begin to deny yourself, it says, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this now so that I can do what I need to do, so that I can come to where I need to be. You have to deny yourself. You can't keep living according to your own will. You have to deny your flesh so that you can let the will of God be done in your life. You have to desire to be with him. You have to deny yourself. And then notice he says, and take up his cross daily. When you take up your cross daily, that means that you devote yourself to him. You devote to take up the cross daily. The cross of Christ is the cause of Christ. Because to devote means to give over wholly or purposefully. It means to center your attention and your affections on particular things or your activities. We devote ourselves to God when we get baptized, to his death, burial, and resurrection. It's our act of devotion. God's looking for people that are devoted, who are committed to him. So we have to desire ourselves, desire him, deny ourselves, and devote ourselves to him. Take up your cross. He's already carried his cross. What he's trying to get you to is the glory of the resurrection. You can't get to the glory of the resurrection unless you take the cross. And the fourth and final principle, when he says follow him, when he says follow me, the principle here is to defer to him, to defer to him, to defer to him. Because to defer means to submit to another's wishes, opinion, or governance through respect. It is saying, Lord, I have my own will. I know what I want to do, but you got more seniority than I do. I respect you. I love you. I'm going to defer to your way. It is this way of our saying, Lord, if it be thy will, let this cup pass from me. But nevertheless, thy will be done. That's deference. That's when you defer to say, I'm going to follow you, Jesus. I defer that I'm going to follow you. I am going to follow you. I want to defer to follow you. God, I'm not going to try to do my own will this time. This time, I'm going to defer to follow you. I desire you. The only reason that I want to come after you, God, is because I desire you. You've got to want him. You've got to want him more than your food. You've got to want him. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in a relationship with anybody who doesn't want me. So he says, you must desire to come after me. These same principles for walking in peaceful relationship with Jesus Christ are the same principles that are necessary to walk in a successful marriage, in a successful relationship. Is that you got to desire the person. You got to deny yourself, be willing to let your will and way die so that the marriage can live. And you got to devote yourself to one another in the eyes of the Lord. Then you got to come to that place where you defer, and it's like, no, it doesn't have to always be my way. I want to defer to you this time. Where do you want to go? I'm going to let you choose it this time. I'm going to defer to you. It doesn't always have to be my way. And so when we come to that place of deference, we're saying, Lord, you're King of Kings, you're Lord of Lords. I defer to you. The greater, I defer to you. I defer to your wisdom. I defer to you. And today, their lives, people that can't follow him because they won't defer to the way of the Lord because they've been trying to do it their own way. Bow your heads. If you're in this place today, nobody walking. If you're in this place today, and you feel like I've been doing it my own way, I've been making decisions that are really not good, and I need to defer to God. I've tried it my own way. I've chosen things my way and tried to run it my way, and it ran in the ground, and I offended people. I messed up relationship. I messed up money. God, I didn't know what I was doing, and now I want to defer to you. I want to defer to your governance, to your control in my life. I want to submit myself. I want to say, not my will, but your will be done. Not my will, let your will be done. God, I want you to just make me what I need to be. I want to defer to you. I want to defer to you, Jesus. I want to defer to you.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.